If you could only choose one pedal for your entire rig, which one would you go with? Normally that's kind of like a hypothetical, but recently I had an issue with my studio, and so I have been making do in this makeshift space. I grabbed my matriarch and a few electrons, but there's not that much space up here, and so I only could bring one pedal with me. Which one did I choose? Let's find out after the open. Hi, I'm Davey from MK Dub. Now, if you follow my channel, you know I love pedals. The quality of pedal effects isn't quite up to the standard of studio gear, boxes like the Eventide 8000s or 9000s or the Eclipse. They're not up to that level, but they're still far better than the effects that you find on board with synths. So you may think that picking just one guitar pedal to bring with you somewhere wouldn't be that tough, right? Maybe just pick the best sounding pedal, whatever that means to you. I never thought about it before, but now that I've been in the situation, I realized that while the pedal effects do sound way better than what you might normally find on, let's say, the Electron boxes, the exception, right, is that Moog Matriarch has the best sounding delay I have ever heard. But for the most part, the pedals do sound a lot better than, let's say, the onboard reverbs or the digital reverbs with the sequential machines or with the electrons, etc., choruses, etc., etc. But it turns out that the effects that are on, let's say, the electrons, they're not as good as the pedals, but they're good enough. They do have a side bonus that you can modulate them using the electron sequencers. If I had to think, what my best sounding effects pedal would be, off the top of my head, I would probably say the CXM 1978, which sounds amazing. In fact, I take back what I just said about the pedals not sounding as good as the rack boxes, because that reverb sounds as good as any reverb I've heard in rack mount form. And I've owned Eventide Eclipse. I've owned the Eventide H8000, and the CXM sounds as good as any of those. Sounds better. I would pick the CXM over either of those Eventide boxes for reverbs. That's it. I didn't bring up the CXM, right? Because I already have reverbs. They're good enough. That kind of gives you a clue as to how I would think about this, right? I'm not going to bring up a chorus, right? I've got my UAFX trio of the Astra, the Starlight, and the Golden Reverberator sound amazing, especially when you string them together. It blows my mind. But I can only bring one of them. And even though individually they all sound better than any effects here on board with the electrons, they're good enough. The chorus is good enough, the delays are good enough, and the reverbs are good enough, especially if I'm just jamming. I'm not doing any hardcore recording up here. So what does that mean for picking just one pedal for this makeshift rig? What I was really looking for was something that I can't get from regular onboard chorus or delay or reverb or phaser, things like that, things that are kind of pretty ho-hum. I'm looking for something that's kind of maybe a little bit more unusual, maybe more vibey, maybe just plain weird, right? And so two candidates really come top of mind for me, at least as far as my collection goes, were first the Hologram Microcosm. That's just a black instant ambient box, instant vibe box. It's even got a looper. It's got a reverb that you can do without the effects. There's so much you can do with that box that, if somebody had a gun in my head and said, I can only ever keep one pedal for the rest of my life, I might just go with that one because it just helps me make great music. But to be honest with you, sometimes I feel like it's kind of cheating and it's not as fun. Because of that, it's just kind of like a preset black box. And I usually find good sounds out of it, but I usually feel like I had nothing to do with that process. Since right now I'm just trying to explore, I'm not worried about crafting, studio ready tunes or anything like that. I wanted something that was more fun and a little bit, just more hands-on than the microcosm. So the pedal I chose was the Chase Bliss Lossy. On the tin, they say that it's a digital noise emulator, kind of inspired by the sound of, early aughts MP3s. But I have to tell you, I was around back in the Napster days, and I don't give a shit about emulating bad MP3s, right? This thing is an instant vibe creator. I guess you could make it sound like a bad MP3, but that's not what I use it for. It creates this vibe that I don't even know what vibe it is. I don't even know what you call it, lo-fi, whatever, glitch, but whatever it is, I love it and I'm here for it. Listen to what it does on these drums, for instance, right? It takes this kind of repetitive, boring drum track and adds some movement and life to it. Here's another kind of synth line that it's just kind of it just adds this vibe, and I can't really tell you what it is, but I love it. And the thing is that you don't have to take it full weird. You can, mix to taste, right? The global knob is your friend when it comes to this. So you can dial some really, really just harsh glitched out sounds and then just pull back on the global until it melds with the main sound and it doesn't take your overall sound into some weird, glitchy, unlistenable place. I just literally dropped a video where the Lossy is basically the best noise pedal I've ever owned. You can also control the loss. It's got the different modes. And of course, with all the Chase Bliss pedals, it's got the switches and the dip switches. So you can make it do really weird, unpredictable things that's really hard to do with other pedals. So this is the one pedal apparently for today. I can't promise that it will be the same next week, next month, next year. I've come across quite a few Chase Bliss pedals that I thought were forever pedals, like Habit, like Blooper, that I no longer own. I love them both dearly, but we've had our time and now we're seeing other people. What about you? What's your one pedal that you can't live without? Let me know in the comments what those might be. Remember, if you like this video, to hit the thumbs up and subscribe and ring that bell. And until next time, remember that the music we create is more powerful than the music we consume. So keep jamming.